Hello everyone, welcome to Now Try It with Wine. I'm Mary.
And I'm Abby.
We are excited to welcome everyone to our first episode of the new season of Now Try It with Wine. For any new listeners out there and our current audience, we wanted to start off with just a quick get to know us for our new host, Abby. So Abby, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. I am so excited to be here and be part of this podcast. The reason why I decided to join this podcast is because I know how important talking about mental health is to Mary. And I seen how this podcast and her going through her journey has helped solidify her voice. So I'm talking to Mary.
Aww.
But I'm saying her because, I don't know, in the past few months, I've seen her journey trying to understand her own emotional well-being. And in a way, it was inspiring to me. But I was, and I probably still am, in this state of complacency because I feel like I'm doing okay, but I know I'm not deep down. And I really don't want to explore that other side of me that I've been complacent with. Because, again, it just feels like I'm okay. But I think this would be a good way to explore my own baggage. I think I'm just so used to staying in my safe bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just comfortable for me. As far as going to therapy, because I know Mary has mentioned her own,
Therapy journey
and how she's doing it. I've done it maybe once or twice in the past, a few years back, and I haven't since then. I've been thinking about doing it recently, but I think a part of me is scared of talking to someone and trying to find reason with the way that I am. Also, it's expensive, and that also scares me too, because I just don't know the financial aspect of that. But anyways, I have wanted to go back to therapy to unpack my handling of certain situations, especially in the past year, but I'm hoping that by doing this with you that I'm able to overcome these negative feelings and be brave enough to create my own space within myself.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand where you're coming from because I think when I first started, before the therapy thing, when I would go to my brother and vent about like something that was going on, he's like, Mary, maybe you should go talk to a therapist. I'm like, but I'm fine.
Yeah, and I know you have mentioned it before. Like, have you ever thought about talking to a therapist? And like...
But you're fine.
but I'm fine. Like, why would I want to talk to somebody? And also, I think a part of me feels like what I'm going through isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, I could easily manage it myself.
Yeah. I think what kind of triggered it for me was when I kept finding myself in the same positions over and over and over again and not understanding what I was doing that was contributing to it, or like what in my situation I could actually do something about to change it. Because I think that was a bigger issue for me too, was just trying to figure out what I did have control over and what I didn't have control over. Because I think I was focusing so much on what I didn't have control over that I wasn't utilizing my voice in what I could have a say in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think this podcast would be a good way for us to put into words what we're wanting and where we're going. And I think that that's something that I didn't understand the importance of self-reflection until I started doing the podcast. So that's kind of a form of journaling when you really think about it, where we're putting out there like our thoughts and what we're wanting and what we're feeling at that moment. And it kind of evolves as the season goes on. Like I saw with last season when I did this with Des, it totally evolved. Like my perspective, not completely, but a lot of things changed through the course of it. So I'm hoping that with this season, it'll be a little different just because I think I'm trying to take what we and Des learned from last season and doing it a little bit differently this season. So for our first episode today, we're diving into the topic that is close to my heart and our mental health vibes. So grab a glass of wine and get cozy because we're going to get this going. In this episode, we're going to take a moment to reflect on where we are currently in terms of our mental health. We believe that self-awareness is key to growth and understanding where our starting point is to make this first step. So just to kind of give you guys a life update. What's up, Primo? What's been up? What's going on?
Like emotionally or
just like in your life, like where are you at right now? And like what's going on right now so we have an idea of where your goals are coming from.
Okay. Well, as I said, I think I'm fine.
We should rename the podcast. I think I'm fine.
Yeah, we should. Oh my God. I think I'm fine. But I think, again, because I feel complacent right now. But I know deep down I have a lot of anxiety, like right now specifically about the future. Because, well, a lot of changes happened in the past year. I have been with someone for 12 years and we broke up, so I had to move back in with my mom. And that in itself was hard to get used to. Mainly because, when you spend your whole adult life with one person, you kind of feel dependent upon them and you don't know who you are as a person. Like, you cannot form your own identity without that person being there. And then moving back in with my mom, I had to get used to that also because my mom is a force to be reckoned with. Yes. She has certain ways and it kind of feels disheartening because people my age, or when I see people my age, it's more of they've already have houses or they have these great established careers and retirement plans. And I'm looking at myself, and although I do have a career, although it is severely underpaid, I don't have a house. I have whatever retirement plans I have. And it's hard when you're trying to, when you try not to compare yourself to others. Because like, I think we all know deep down that everyone's lives are different. But when I look at it, I always think of, well, what did I do wrong a lot of the times? Or what could I do better? So again, right now, I feel a lot of anxiety about the future because I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I know what I want financially. I know what I want, but it's just overwhelming on what I have to do to get there.
Yeah, I totally understand. I think I'm not in the same exact predicament at the same time right now, but there is other things. It feels like life is coming at you like a freight train. Like, I have my things I want to work on in my marriage and goals that we have between each other that will of growth and things that we want in the future. There was the new shift in the podcast, with Des stepping back. It put me in kind of like a revision period that was kind of anxiety ridden just because I kind of had an idea of what we were going to do and then I didn't get to do that. So that kind of, I like to think that I adapt well to change, but it was still a funky trying to find a new rhythm.
Yeah.
And then because this podcast is so based on our voices, I had to throw out everything that we had kind of planned on because you're in a different spot. I'm in a different spot than when me and had planned the next season. There's also like some big family stuff that's going on with Robert and medical things for people that are coming to light. And now we're having to adjust to that and the stress of that, I think they were I can't remember what movie it was. I think it was a Tyler Perry movie with Badia where she was talking about there's a period in your life where your parents where your marriage is going to get hard because your parents start dying and you start reevaluating where you are and where you want to be. And not that nothing's happening to Robert's parents, but people in that realm it's getting to that point where life changes and things are going to start happening. And people who are instrumental to me and Robert are getting close to that age where something's going to happen. And just the stress and anxiety of like making sure that we spend time with them and we do things with them. And it's just like I feel like there's a lot of like irons in the fire and pressure going on right now. So my stress and anxiety are like through the roof. I feel like I've been going to my anxiety pills at least twice a day. And I never used to be at that point. Not even when I first started my therapy journey. I was just kind of taking them once a day. And now I'm like, where are they? Where are my pills? So this is kind of like a period for me where I want to refocus and kind of bring things back center, if that makes sense. What do you think?
I think that's a solid way of putting it. And a lot of the times I think to myself, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you before, but when I am going through these, like just mentally, because everything's internal, I really don't actively voice what I am going through with other people unless I feel comfortable enough with that person or they're asking me. So when I hear about what you're going through or what you have been through, and I look at my own life and what I've been through, instantly I'm like, well, I really shouldn't be feeling this way because other people may have it worse than me. or they may be going
all the time,
or they may be going through something much more difficult than I am. And I should be grateful that, I have a parent who I am able to move in with. I should be grateful that I do have a job and for all these other things. So even to feel negative about my current life situation it's very hard to reckon with.
But I think that we have to validate our own pain too, while still being respectful to other people's. And I totally get what you mean, because I have the same thing where like I'm venting to someone about Robert said something stupid, and then someone else says something like, well, my husband's cheating, and I'm like, oh shit. Never mind. Let me back it up. But we're like, all of our pain is different, but it's still all valid, like regardless of like the level. I think you told me that too when I was like, maybe I should shut up because I was venting to you about something. And then you're like, no, you're just as valid as mine is valid. Everybody feels it different. Everyone's journey is different. So I think part of what will help us with the podcast is just validating each other and allowing each other to be sad.
Yeah. Being okay with those emotions.
Yeah. So before we get into this goal setting process, let's get some wine in us. So Abby brought, what is that? Can you pronounce this?
I have no idea what this brand is. I got it at HEB and I tried it once. I think it's Reunite. And I think, honestly, we're just reading too much into it.
I tried to make it French.
Reunite.
I
think it's called Reunite. And it's a Lambrusco.
And it's from Emilia, Italia.
Yeah.
It's a fuzzy, fruity, and semi-sweet.
Yeah, it is canned, for those wondering. So
I know, I've never had a canned wine.
I think they're a step above boxed wine.
Really?
I don't know.
The sweet O-meter rates this as a medium.
Yeah.
I don't know what the scale is, but I don't know what O-meter is, but
I think it's how dry a wine is or how sweet it is, to be honest.
So this has hints of berries and dark cherries with fuzz. Vine grower owned. I don't know what that means. I need to get my wine game up. Pairs well with friends, family, and fun.
Oh, yeah. All three right now.
I don't know why that made me laugh. Give me a second. Let's open this bad boy up.
I hope you like it. If not, then I'll drink yours.
I can smell it, and I like the smell. I do like fruitier, crispier wines, so I'm excited to try it just because I like...
It's a semi-sweet, so I don't know.
It doesn't have to be like super, super sweet, but let me just try it. I like how crisp it is. The flavors are nice. And I kind of like that it's not overly sweet. I have to be honest, I'm not a big Lambrusco fan, but I've only ever had one. And it's a very particular brand that my mom drinks like juice.
Oh, okay.
And I never liked that. To me, that one tasted like cough syrup. This does not taste like cough syrup.
I think, because I know HEB has a brand of Lambrusco, but the best one I've tried was in Fredericksburg. When I went, it was like this wine bar where you could try whatever wines they have by the glass.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I do like this one, though. It's not too sweet. It has a little bit of a fuzziness to it, which I like. I've never had one out of a can, but I do still, I think you're right. I think it's above a box wine, but not at a bottle. But it's still really good, and I like it. And I think it'd be a cute idea for the beach.
Oh, yeah. That would be a cute idea.
To take this, and I like it.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I was kind of worried that you weren't.
I give it a 4, actually. I really do like it. 5.
Okay.
It's not for what it is. When you're looking at, like, as far as like a canned wine.
Got it.
I give it a 4. If I was comparing it to a bottle, maybe closer to a 3. What do you think?
I like it. I've had it before. I just haven't bought it in a while.
Is it like your favorite, like on a 1 to 5, or is it, where does it fall in your realm?
I'd say a 4. 4 as well. I really don't drink a lot of canned wine.
Me either, but this was interesting. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting find. And the bottles are cute. They're girly with little flowers. So I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get back into the discussion. Today we are putting ourselves front and center and giving ourselves the attention and care that we deserve as women. We are going to do some self-reflection together. For this season, we want to work on our mental health goals together first so that we can take time to reflect and develop those goals. And then we're going to build the rest of the season around what we come up with today. So let's get it going, Abby. What is the goal today?
All right. So to begin our exploration, we'll be developing SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, tailored specifically to improve our mental health. These goals will serve as our guiding light, leading us towards a more balanced and fulfilling life. Because I kind of lost track of where I was reading. And we want to encourage you, our wonderful listeners, to join us in this exercise.
So let's get into it. We found a really great article from browngirltrauma.com. What? And it was an amazing article. It outlined kind of how to identify your own goals through self-reflection. So we're kind of going to walk you through the different steps that she outlined in the article. She gives a lot more detail than we are. We're going to do very high level just because we want to get into the actual goal setting process. So this is just to give you an idea if you want to follow along. So Abby, hit us with that first step.
So step 1 is to identify your why. Before setting your mental health goals, it's crucial to understand the underlying motivation behind them. Your why should serve as the solid foundation for your personal and value-based objectives. So if you're new to value-based work, begin by jotting down your broader goals. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Think big and don't be afraid if your goals seem daunting. So if you want to, because I don't know if you're listening to this in the car or at home, or maybe if you feel like you need to jot this down in a journal, maybe pause for the next 5 minutes, jot down those ideas if you want to work along with us while we're setting those mental health goals.
Yeah, this would be a good place to stop and just kind of do your own reflection on that process.
Yeah. So in order to get to your why, the first step the article outlines is to identify the top 3 to 5 values that align with your broader goals for the upcoming year. Spend some time journaling about why you've chosen those specific goals and values. By understanding your underlying motivations and aligning your goals with your values, you'll be better equipped to embark on your mental health journey with clarity and purpose.
Purpose is where we're going. I never understood what a why was. I hear people talk about their why a lot.
You know, when I started teaching, it's always been like this motto or just something that people would say in order so you could continue the year when you're going through hardship. But it is remember your why. Like, why did you get into education? Why do you want to be a teacher? Remember your why when things aren't going as expected, when you feel like you want to pull your hair out, which I understand it's supposed to ground you when you're like
stressed,
to ground you and to make you a bit more motivated. But there are just some moments where I'm like, I cannot find my why right now. Right now, I'm thinking why I need to go home.
Yeah. Or like, why did I do this?
I mean, yeah.
I understand the purpose of it. You know, for me, as far as like my career goes right now, I'm not in my why. As far as it's just a job to get my monies. But like when I think about, because I think I mentioned at the beginning of the episode when I'm struggling with my marriage, sometimes I struggle to wonder why. Why did I get married? You know, why did I want to do this? Like, this is so hard. Like, wouldn't it be easier if I just had to like consult myself? I didn't have to talk to anybody else about, you know, what was going on. But I understand the importance of like being able to ground yourself in your why, but it can be like when you're really going through it, it can be very hard to even remember what that why was. Maybe I need to write my whys down and start putting them to like reflect on it, like when I'm in a good spot, so that when I'm in a bad spot, I can go back and look at it. So step 2 in this process is to create SMART goals. SMART goals are popular framework used to set clear and actionable goals. The acronym SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I think the reason why it's so important to set SMART goals is because I think it's been my experience when I'm centering my mental health goals and like verbalizing them, they're always very broad and they never give me any guidance as to what I should be doing during this time.
Yeah.
Like if I say I want to like have better communication in my relationships, okay, but how are you going to have better communication in your relationships? Like, how are you going to do that? So I think if you want to say you want to do that goal, the broader goal of having better communication in relationships, I could say that my SMART goal would be when I'm having a disagreement that I can't solve in my normal way, that maybe I could try letter writing or trying a different method altogether to communicate. I remember when my mom and dad got a divorce and I had a lot of unresolved anger towards my father about what was happening. I took to letter writing because Oprah said I should letter write. And my grandma would make me watch Oprah with her when I got home from school. And Oprah talked about the letter writing. And I was like, I'm going to try it. And I did feel a lot better just putting out how I felt and not having to worry about how someone's going to react to me, because no one was going to read the letter. And it was obviously written for my father, but I was never going to give it to, he wasn't even talking to us. Like we weren't even friends, but the act of writing it down made it easier. So I think if your goal is communication, maybe you should dedicate an hour a week to looking at different forms of communication that don't really involve having to talk to the other person.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the SMART goals are important. So just to be a little more specific, SMART goals. So the specific part means a goal that should be well defined and specific and clearly stated so that you know what you want to achieve. Don't go into something with something that's so broad that you don't know what you're wanting. Like you could say, I want better communication, but I want better communication for better understanding between me and my partner. That's very specific. I want Robert to have a better understanding of me. Just saying I want better communication, well, what does that mean? Like, try to be as specific to what you want as possible. Measurable, you should be able to track your progress as you're going through it. So there should be indicators for you that progress is being made. Like if our communication is getting better, then our mood around each other will get better and there will be a deeper level of understanding. Like he'll understand a little bit more about me. Achievable. So like that's a realistic goal that I'll try different communication methods with him, like letter writing or something to help him understand me a little bit better. But what's not achievable is like, I'm going to teach Robert how to think like me. Like I cannot, that's unachievable. He's never going to think like me. And if that's your goal, it's not achievable. So there's really no point in even trying to put
and
your
also
energy
it
that
puts
way.
the burden on you thinking that way, because then you have to,
you're taking full responsibility for it. That's a really good point.
It is a good point. Thank you, Abby.
You're so fucking smart. Relevant. It should be relevant to what you want as your broader goal. So if I really want our communication to be better, I don't need to be worrying necessarily about helping him improve his mood, because it's not relevant necessarily to, I guess it's a good goal, but it's not relevant to the issue that we're having at hand, that about communication, because he doesn't need to be in the best mood to be a good communicator. And I think the real test of being a good communicator is when you're not in the best mood and how well you communicate to somebody that you're not in the best mood and your feelings and things like that. So if you try not to focus on unrelevant parts. You're going to have to try to reflect on what is relevant to your overall goal. Things don't have to be perfect to achieve your goal. So you don't have to worry about all these little intricacies of it. And then time bound. There should be a specific time frame or deadline to help you feel that little push to be a little more hands-on with it. If it's just an open-ended, like it's going to happen when it, like my goals that I'm going to talk about today, they could happen whenever. My goal is to have my achievable SMART goals accomplished by the time we're done with this podcast. So our last episode is scheduled, I think, for the end of March of next year. So I'm giving myself this time to achieve those goals. So it's putting a little sense of urgency behind it, and it's not making it so that I can be like, well, I'll worry about it next week. I'll worry about it next month. I need to worry about it now so that I can actually achieve those goals. So putting a timestamp on it kind of helps you gauge it a little bit better. So those SMART goals will just help you make a clear roadmap for your actions and make it easier for you to track your progress, stay motivated, and achieve results. So that was very long-winded.
I know, right?
Abby, I'm ready to hear your top goals.
All right. So it took me quite a while to figure out what my 5 top values were, because I had to self-reflect but
yeah.
But this is what I came up with based on what I have experienced in the past or what I feel like I need to work on in the future.
Okay, so just list the goals part.
Just the goals?
Just the overall, the big words. What are your personal values?
Okay. So I put fortitude.
Ooh. fancy college level word. SAT word.
Actually, it was dictionary.com. Embracing vulnerability.
Ooh.
I really need to do that. Tranquility.
I like that one too.
Confidence and creativity.
Oh, I like those.
Mm-hmm.
So mine were 3 a.m. thoughts. I couldn't sleep one night and I was working on the episode and I was reflecting on my life. I cried like once or twice thinking of my goals. I think it's because it was, again, 3 a.m. thoughts.
Yeah.
And I came up with authenticity, connection, growth, resilience, and balance.
I really like those.
I think there's a lot of crossover. Maybe not necessarily on what we're wanting, but the overall.
What we want to achieve.
Yeah, the broader part of it. I think so.
You know what's interesting? I was going to use resilience, but I'm like, you know what? Let me find a different word for resilience. That's why I chose fortitude. And
I think it sounds more powerful for you to say fortitude than it is for me to say. The
reason why I wanted to choose resilience is because I do bullet journaling. So I started a new bullet journal at the beginning of the year for like my yearly journal. And on the first page, I put a word of the year, which was resilience. Because I wanted to, when I'm feeling these times of emotional distress, I wanted to go back and look at that word and be like, okay, I'm going to be resilient today or for the next week. And that's what I really wanted to focus on.
Yeah, I like that. So for fortitude, can you talk to me a little bit about why you picked that one?
Well, I picked it just because the word itself means strengthening of the mind to encounter adversity through courage. And I feel like I need a lot of courage to overcome those obstacles that I do face. Did you want me to go through the broader goal or?
Yeah, you can go through the broader one and then I'll go through my broader as to.
Okay. So typically when I'm facing difficult situations, I don't know how to navigate it. So as a broader goal, I put to ask myself, how does this situation make me feel? And why am I feeling this type of way about the situation? Trying to get to the root of the problem, I guess, to deter any anxiety I may have surrounding that problem. I don't know if that makes sense.
So what I'm getting from it is you want to have the courage to address the issue.
I want to have the courage to address the issue, but also understand where it is that I am, emotionally.
I get what you mean, because I think you talked about that a little bit in the beginning about how you're struggling to define things for yourself because you just don't want to, because you're like, it's fine, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But you want to put yourself in the headspace where you're actually going to look at the issue. That's deep for me.
That's deep for you. So the SMART goal for fortitude and how I could cultivate fortitude in my life. Again, a lot of the times when I'm faced with these problems I have to solve, or a problem I think I have to solve, because sometimes these problems, maybe they don't involve me, but I feel like, well, because I'm outside looking in, they involve me somehow. I tend to overanalyze the situations and I tend to overthink a lot. So my plan for establishing fortitude within myself is to jot down those reasons why I feel a certain type of way when it's those uncomfortable situations. So that way I can have a better understanding of my emotions and I'm able to face them with courage and with resilience.
So understanding, this is a real deep about understandanding yourself.
Yeah.
Which you were like, I don't want to do.
Because again, I think I'm fine.
And I'm sure we learn to live with these things. So in a certain level, we are fine. But in another level, we're ignoring a part of ourselves that needs to be addressed at the same time. But I think being able to control your emotions is through that kind of way is smart, because you don't want everybody to see how you are. So my resilience, since I'm going to kind of counter, is the ability to bounce back from challenges, adapt to adversity, and maintain a positive mindset. So when I get presented with something that's anxiety ridden or stressful, I have a real issue with not making it my fault. Like, I'll rephrase things in my mind that I know aren't necessarily true to make myself take responsibility for the whole thing so that I don't ever hold anybody else accountable.
So that way, because I think I know what you're saying, like the fault is on you ultimately, because you don't want, I know what you're saying because I've done the same thing.
And I do that a lot over stupid things. like things that are clearly not my fault or not completely my fault. I have a real, as time goes on and I put distance between it, I have a way of making it all my fault. And I want to be better about holding people accountable, putting some distance between me and what's going on, and not feeling guilty or shameful for putting up boundaries. I want to be more resilient in myself, that I can hold those boundaries and find a comfortability with those boundaries and not let shame or guilt make me waver or allow myself to, because one other thing I notice I do is when I've already decided this person isn't good for me, I have one good interaction with them later and I forget all of the shitty stuff that happened before, and I let this person in again, and then it happens again. And I do the same thing where I have one good interaction with them and I've dismissed everything that I already know about the person. I want to be more resilient and reminding myself that just because I'm setting boundaries doesn't mean that they're a bad person or I'm a bad person. I need to have more strength and confidence in myself to say it's okay to not be liked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to have distance and not let guilt or shame come into play. So I want to be a little more resilient.
Nice. Nicely done.
I need to hold people accountable with my little imaginary paddle. Don't touch me.
Don't touch me.
So what's your next one?
So my next one is embracing vulnerability.
Ew.
Mm-hmm. Do you know who Brene Brown is?
I am a psychology major, madam. I know who the goddess of psychology is very well.
Okay. Well, she wrote a book called Daring Greatly, which is about exploring vulnerability, not only within yourself, but in society, because a lot of the times we always have to present ourselves as being strong-willed and not showing weakness, right? Mm-hmm. So in her book, she talks about how we must face what it means to be vulnerable, and that is shame, fear, and the struggle for worthiness. So with me personally, I struggle a lot with reaching out to people when I desperately need it or when I need help. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, mentally or emotionally, but like with my job, if there's a problem, I'm going to figure out how to fix it. Or if I'm struggling to do this a certain way, before I go to anyone else, I'm going to first struggle with myself to find out a solution, which is very detrimental because that did backfire this year in my job when there was a situation where I needed help, but I didn't because I had everything under control.
Yeah.
So the broader goal for this is to actively share my feelings and experiences with trusted individuals in order to foster deeper connections and enhance my emotional well-being. All right, so my SMART goal for embracing vulnerability is to mainly ask for help when I desperately need it and not get it to a point where it backfires on me, if that makes sense. So when I start to get this inner dialogue of I don't need anyone's help, I could figure it out on my own, I think at that point I need to stop and reach out to people who are able to help me with that or to assist me in that way. Because again, I always have that inner thought of I could do this on my own.
Yeah. Just rephrasing your mindset going into things.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that. Vulnerability.
I know.
I like it. So my kind of vulnerability, I think I'm going to say, is connection. So one of my personal values is connection. Nurturing meaningful relationships, fostering a sense of belonging, and valuing social connections with others. So like my broader goal was to dedicate focused and uninterrupted time to spend with loved ones, engaging in meaningful conversation, shared activities, and creating lasting memories. So I need to be better about overbooking my free time. I do
and I have talked to you about that.
Yes.
Because I'm like, how are you busy all the time?
Because I try to squeeze in every little activity I possibly can in a day. And it's become more and more evident to me that I need to be more aware and respectful of my own social battery. I remember when Abby came back from traveling abroad, we had a camping trip And I spent maybe all day Saturday in bed the second day into our trip because my social battery was spent. And I should have planned more accordingly and given myself breaks throughout the trip and not overwhelmed myself so much to be so involved and so hands-on the whole time. And I felt like I ruined half the trip for myself. Like everyone else had fun, but I wish I could have been a little more engaged during that trip. And I've noticed that too when like I've have my nephew's soccer game and then I go have lunch with you and then I go shopping and run my errands and then I go to a birthday party at night. I'm like done. I'm like, I want to sit in the living room, watch TV in the middle of the party without anyone talking to me. Because I still want the connection of being around everybody, but I don't want to have the pressure of having to talk all the time. And because I am so effervescent, people want to talk to me. And I know I should be flattered, but I get drained because I also feel like to a certain extent I have to be on.
Yeah.
Like it can't be casual conversation. I have to be upbeat, energetic, and all these things that I just don't have the energy to be. So I'm hoping that I can find a way to communicate a little bit better when I feel like my social battery is going down and finding ways to rejuvenate my social battery by giving me a little bit of a break. Like maybe I'll carry, like I do carry my books with me, but people get really offended when I whip out my book and I'm like sitting in a corner reading. But if you give me like 20, 30 minutes, I'll be fine. It's like a cup of coffee for me. And I think I need to be better about communicating my needs and explaining why these things are important to me and just not planning so much.
Got it.
So connection. Mm-hmm. That's how I'm going to get there. I'm not going to plan so much when it comes to my whole day. Like I want to leave a little room for spontaneity and individual time.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to plan better. I got to plan not to plan.
Exactly. All right. So my next goal is tranquility and how to foster calmness within myself and in my mind. Because again, I have that constant, it's either negative self-talk or just that anxiety of uncertainty. Let's just put it that way. And I could do this by dedicating my time to meditate and journal, during this self-healing journey. But ultimately, I do want to set time per day to let go of any baggage that I may have, either the past baggage that I may have from what I went through or whatever my future baggage, if you will, of what I'm thinking about and how things aren't turning the way I want them to, and instead focus on the present. Like, where am I now?
Yeah.
Where am I now? And why shouldn't I have this get to me? I don't know if that makes sense, because I feel like living in the past too long, you're not able to grow and heal because you're not able to move away from those experiences, the negative ones. But if you focus on the future, that also doesn't help because, again, the anxiety of uncertainty, I don't know, it's just like you're looking through a glass ball, but nothing's in there type of thing, right? So I do want to start meditation, and I feel like that's going to be hard for me to do because if I'm sitting by myself with nothing on or nothing to distract me and I'm just with my thoughts, that is the time when I start feeling
the spike.
Yes, the spike. And that's when I start having those emotions that I don't want to have and I don't want to think about. So that's going to be hard for me to accomplish, I feel like.
I think maybe we should do an episode just on different meditation techniques because I know there's some that don't involve being in a quiet space. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something we should
I know I've done yoga in the past, and that has been meditative for me because it wasn't just like you're connecting with your thoughts, but with your movements and how, breathing pattern and how you're moving through these movements with intention. That was
therapeutic.
It was therapeutic for me, and I felt a lot of relief after the fact. So I'm thinking about doing something like that. Like, not intense yoga, not hot yoga.
Let's do goat yoga.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that. I've heard about that. And I love goats. So, but I do want to practice that and be intentional when I do yoga or when I decide to meditate.
That's something I didn't put it as a goal, but maybe I should. I think the whole goal of the podcast is to be more intentional with my actions, behaviors, and my mindset. So I like that you use the word intentional with your tranquility.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to be intentional with our tranquility. So my goal, authenticity.
I like that one.
So being true to oneself, embracing individuality, and expressing thoughts, feelings, and beliefs genuinely. So like my broader goal was to cultivate self-compassion and embrace my true self, including both my strengths and my vulnerabilities, and let go of self-judgment and embrace self-acceptance. What you were talking about earlier really resonated with me with the negative inner dialogue. I hold fast to that negative inner dialogue for dear life. If someone is too nice to me, I do not trust them. And that includes myself. Because I think we talked a little bit about this in the previous season. I don't know if you heard the episode where we talked about core beliefs. One of my core beliefs is that I am garbage, that I never have good intentions, that I'm not a good person, that I don't do anything right. And when I'm feeling moments of stress or anxiety, that core belief comes out in my thoughts. That everything I did to handle that situation was wrong. Even though I know I did, like another part of me knows the truth. The part of me that says that it's wrong is always 10 times louder. So trying to be a little more fair with myself and not being so detrimental is really hard for me, because another aspect of it is that I use those negative thoughts to motivate me to be a high achiever. So I do really well in school because I'm calling myself a dumb bitch every day and telling me to get my shit together. You know this, you could do better. And I try harder. So I don't know how to get those same results by being nice to myself, because all I've ever known from when I was little, the way I was taught and motivated, and I'm not trying to be gross or mean or anything like that or call anybody out or say anything bad, but I've always been talked to in a certain way that it's just become so comfortable for me that I don't realize. I only focus on achieving, aren't I? I'm tired. I don't feel good. My anxiety's up in the air. None of that matters because I'm achieving. I'm being successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to try to find a way to balance that out a little bit more so that I can trust that I'm making the right choice and not questioning myself over decisions over and over and over again.
Have you ever, I'm trying to think what it is when you, I don't want to say set an intention, but for example, every day you wake up and you look in the mirror and you say something nice about yourself. Have you tried
affirmations.
that? Affirmations. There you go.
Yes. I think I need to get better about being consistent about the affirmations.
Or even if you cannot be consistent with it, why don't you try writing something nice about yourself on a sticky note? Place it on your mirror so that way you're looking at it. You don't have to say it, but you look at it and you read it.
Maybe I'll try that. We need to add that to the meditation episode.
Oh, yeah.
We'll add affirmations to it. So that was mine for authenticity. So what's your last one? I think it's your last one.
I think I have two more, but I'll go through those quickly.
Oh, you can go ahead and do your next one. And then, we do have two more. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think in line with authenticity is confidence, which I want to be more certain in my own truth, but also in myself, because I doubt myself a lot. So I do want to be kind to myself by setting a positive self-image and establishing a sense of worth. And a lot of the times, again, I compare myself to others. So my goal ultimately is to stop comparing myself to others, especially when it comes to my own body, because I've never, and I know what people say, oh, you don't look that bad. Like, it's just your own perception, or like,
what is it called? I think it's dysmorphia, or like
body
image dysmorphia.
Yeah, body dysmorphia. Like, it's just one of those things where I'm not comfortable in my skin because I don't like the way I look.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back a lot to childhood, as when you're going through those changes with your body, but you're getting those 17 magazines. Have you ever
Yes.
My mom used to get them in the mail, and I used to read them, and it's either 5 exercises you could do at home to get abs or to get a flatter stomach, or they're talking about celebrities and what they do to achieve their body. And I'm like, I want to be that way. But of course, my body's going through these changes, I started getting an ass and not much on top. And for the longest time, I've hated my hips and my butt. For the longest time. Like, I didn't want to wear anything above my knee. I just wanted to conceal everything. And then in my past relationship, when I started to gain a little weight, or it wasn't even I feel like, of course, when you get older, you gain weight.
Kind of fill out a little bit.
You gain weight, you start to change, because of hormones or just what you're going through. But the comments like, oh, you're eating all that, or maybe you should go to the gym more, or maybe you should start going to the gym. And then I would get upset at myself because I'm like, well, I have no excuse not to go to the gym, but I wasn't motivated. Like I didn't have that motivation to go to the gym because.
But things are being said that you were making true.
Yeah. So of course I started to feel negative about myself. I started to feel negative about my body. And like, I still do. Like it's hard to get over. So I just want to prioritize self-acceptance and when I start thinking about, oh, I should go on a new diet, or I should start exercising 5 days a week or 6 days a week and start doing all this. And it doesn't help with TikTok,
Every fad diet.
Not the fad diet, but just like spend a day with me at the gym. And then I was like, okay, like I know that's so harmful. So just like start prioritizing self-acceptance. Like, what do I like about my body? Where has my body gotten me at this point?
Yeah. I don't know what, Shama, you look good, so. So my next goal is growth. So continuously seeking personal and professional development, embracing learning opportunities, and striving for self-improvement. I have a personal broad goal that if I have a goal that involves my skills, knowledge base, anything, it's very important for me to always exploit those opportunities. It's just something that I've always been a big advocate of, is doing things to improve yourself at every stage of your life. I don't think there's ever, and it might be detrimental to say that, but I never want to become complacent with who I am. Like I always want to try to strive for more of something. I know it's a psychotic goal.
I don't think it is.
Some people have told me just because I'm still going to school and this is my second master's and they're like, and I want to get a doctorate, and a lot of, because it's not for everybody, obviously, but I get a lot of comments like, you're crazy, girl. Like I would never do that. It's always been, even when, especially right now, because I took the summer off and I'm not starting school until the fall. I feel very like, I need to learn something. I need to be doing something. I need to be like growing some way, because I'm not growing if I'm not learning something. Like I want to grow, but I want to be able to play around and find new hobbies and not feel like I have to be amazing at this.
It's just learning skills, right?
Yeah.
You want to find skills to learn, not because they are going to reward you in the future, but because you have that intrinsic motivation.
Yeah. To do something fun and creative. Like when you were talking about creativity, I want to do something fun and creative where I don't really have to utilize my critical thinking skills all the time. I want to be able to like fumble around in something and feel confident and comfortable doing that, and not feel like I need to be so high achieving all the time. Like I can just play around in something. Mm-hmm. So that was mine. So now we're on our last goal.
Yeah, the last goal. I know this seems like, oh my God. But we have to go in depth with it, I feel like.
Yeah,
to better understand it. Mm-hmm. So my last goal is creativity. And I kind of want to think outside the box and have a healthy mindset towards enjoyment, or doing things that bring me enjoyment. As a broader goal, I do want to set up a creative space and use that creative space regularly. And the reason why I put creativity on here is because I've always wanted to write stories, because I love reading. I love reading stories and just how authors are able to formulate a new world inside your mind. And I've always wanted to do that.
She wants to get inside your mind.
Yes, I want to alter it. Like, let's just say. So I've always liked writing, but I never really actually took the initiative to set up a story, because I do want to write stories. I do want to write my own book one day. So,
fun fact, me and Abby have written a book together.
You know what? I honestly do not remember this.
Okay, so it was called The Adventures of Chocolate Thunder, and I can't remember.
Oh my God!
You remember now?
Yes, I do, but I don't remember the plot.
Okay, so this isn't the nicest thing, but I had a family member that was very mean to me, and kept doing things to me and my brothers. So we created her as a fictional character called Chocolate Thunder. And we would turn the sad situation that happened and change the ending. So like we'd make it funny, like something funny would happen to her.
Now
like,
I remember this. I totally forgot until you mentioned that. Do I remember the plots? No.
But we did write a bunch of little short stories about the whole situation. And it was for me, it was a coping mechanism because it was a really hard situation that I was going through. But the stories just made it fun and funny. And it was nice to redirect the sad and like upsetting parts into something fun.
Yeah.
But we have written a book. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I think I have it somewhere in my garage.
Oh my God. You should definitely pull it out or try to find it.
I would have looked for it.
Yeah. So ultimately, I just want to write stories and be a more creative individual. That's the gist of it.
I like it. Because it's the same thing what I want with just being confident enough to explore activities that I might not be really good at. So my last goal is balance. I think we overlapped a lot, but I think we both want the same broader goals like what I said in the beginning, but I think what we want to achieve is different. So with my balance, I want to strive for harmonious integration of various aspects of my life, such as work, relationships, self-care, and leisure. I like the leisure.
Leisure, yeah.
Reach out for support when needed. Foster connections with loved ones, and seek professional help or therapy to address my imbalances and changes that I'm facing. So I want to learn to identify different things in my life, especially people who aren't good for my mental health, and how to empower myself to take action against and protect my mental health, which is something I think I talked about at the beginning of this episode. I want to feel empowered in my mental health journey and empowered. I think I'm finding out a lot about myself, but I'm not finding out a lot about how to address certain things. And I think it's hard to do that when you're first going through your mental health journey, just because you're trying to understand yourself and figure out what solutions work best for you. And being able to have the know-it-all to know both of those things at the same time is not always easy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I need a lot of help just understanding how I feel about something before I can even get to how I'm going to resolve it. And I think that I want a little more balance as far as giving myself distance and space to figure those things out before I address something.
Got it.
So I never want to react out of an emotion and not come from a place of understanding, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
And I want more balance that way. Because I feel like a lot of my reactions right now are emotion based, especially when I'm in this period where, like I was talking about at the beginning, where I'm under a lot of stress. There's a lot of different things that are demanding my attention right now. And it's very hard for me not to take any kind of change personal, because I already feel like I'm already being pushed to my limit. And now I'm being thrown something else. I feel like I don't have the energy to deal with this right now because I have other pressing things on. So I'm going to shift my resources and balance it out a little bit better, so I don't feel the need to address every little thing at once.
Got it. That sounds like a solid plan.
I think we have a lot of ideas.
Yeah. And I'm interested to see how I go and progress in this journey.
Yes. So the last step is to actually plan weekly mental health goals. So we will check in with each other and with you guys. I would encourage you to do the same exercise and maybe even send us DMs or messages with your goals so we can incorporate some of our episodes to and reflect some of your goals or your specific situation, and give us some new information every week about it. So we want to encourage you as the listener to challenge yourself at the end of the week, maybe to do a ritual with us or just on your own to reflect on your goals and see what kind of progress you've made on them. Taking time to engage in weekly reflections is a really easy way to check in on your mental health. And you can reflect on your wins, your challenges, any kind of progress you had that week. For me, I like at night, before I go to bed, I'll kind of like check in with myself, like, how are you feeling? That kind of thing. But I think maybe I need to do it first thing in the morning so I can actually do something about how I'm feeling.
I don't have any energy in the morning to think about anything. I'm like, I just woke up.
Yeah, maybe after like my face, like washing my face and brushing my teeth and reflecting, I am going to try the affirmation sticky notes.
Yeah.
shizzle.
Mm-hmm. So next week, we will begin the work by discussing trauma. Traumatic experience such as abuse, violence, or significant loss can deeply disrupt a person's sense of self and authenticity. Trauma can shatter one's belief about safety, trust in the world, leading to the loss of identity or distorted perception of oneself. And I'm kind of interested in our next episode, but I'm also a little bit hesitant because I feel like I don't have much to contribute in terms of trauma. So
you sound like Des.
No.
But I think when it comes to trauma, for me, it's sometimes not so clear cut as to what it was about the situation that was traumatic. And I think when I reflect back on what I consider traumatic, it's not necessarily that I'm haunted by anything necessarily. It's more like something negative that happened to me that has caused a chain reaction. So has caused me to react in a certain way or feel a certain way on a certain topic. And not necessarily, it doesn't always have to be so scary.
Got it. But again, it also goes with that thing of, well, I really didn't go through any hardships growing up. Like, I've had it good type of thing in my head when I know that deep down, like, there were instances that were not okay.
Yeah.
But again, I just brushed it off and I dismiss it within myself.
Yeah. And then if something triggers it again, it's the same kind of dismissal. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So I think it might not be clear going. I found this with the episodes with me and Desiree, where we would go into an episode not really knowing what to talk about and just have a topic. And then through the course of the conversation, like, we're having all of this discussion about something. And I'm like, I think that'll be something that continues. So even if you don't think that an episode might necessarily have anything to do with you, you might find something in the conversation that has something to do with you. Because I think it's really, for me too, it's very hard to see myself sometimes in life. So I'm excited about next week. We hope you guys will continue to listen. I know this is different. It's different for all of us, but we're super excited and I can't wait for next week.
Yeah. Me. Is it me neither? Me either. I don't know.
I don't know. You're the English major.
Girl. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying when I'm standing in front of a classroom.
This is what's teaching America. So thanks for listening to Now Try It With Wine. I'm Mary.
And I'm Abby.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.